Welcome, everyone. This is the very first deep dive of the Raise Children After Divorce podcast.
It's great to be starting this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Today we're embarking on, well, a really crucial journey, I think, trying to understand the emotional world our kids navigate during divorce and, after as well. Our guide for this first look is Chapter 1, Episode 1 from the series. And listeners, you actually brought this material to us.
Which is fantastic.
It is, because you're probably seeing, or maybe anticipating, some of these emotional responses in your own kids. You're looking for clarity and really practical ways to help.
Actual tools, yeah.
So that's our mission today. Dig into the core insights, pull out knowledge you can actually use.
Exactly. And this chapter, it really lays such a vital foundation for just grasping what our children are going through.
Right.
It's so easy. And look, it's understandable to get caught up in the logistics, the schedules, all of that.
Oh, definitely.
But keeping a close, empathetic eye on that emotional landscape, it's just fundamental for their well-being. Absolutely fundamental.
Okay, so let's unpack this first big part. The chapter kicks off with a really resonant image, doesn't it?
It really does.
The author talks about his daughter, how she was unusually quiet at breakfast, cereal untouched, just a big contrast to her normal self, and how that small moment kind of mirrored the massive emotional upheaval happening for both of them. Such a powerful way to start.
It is. And that image, it immediately tells you that kids don't always, spell out their struggles verbally.
It's often subtle.
Exactly. Their internal state, it often shows up in these subtle shifts, like withdrawing or maybe just a quietness that feels off. And what's really key here is this idea of kids as emotional sponges. They are just incredibly tuned in to the emotional vibe around them.
Soaking it all up.
Completely, which highlights how critical it is for us as parents to be mindful of our own emotional expressions, because they're constantly absorbing, mirroring, often without even realizing it.
Right. Even when we think we're hiding it, they pick up on that tension, the changes.
And as the chapter shows really well, these absorbed feelings, they can spark a whole spectrum of reactions. Sadness, sure, that's common.
Yeah.
But you might also see anger, confusion, definitely, as they try to make sense of it all. And sometimes, believe it or not, even relief.
Relief. That's interesting.
Especially if the home was, full of conflict before. Sometimes the change brings a kind of calm, surprisingly.
Okay. And these feelings, they don't just stay inside, do they? The chapter talks about how they can sort of leak out into behavior.
That's a good way to put it. Leak out, yeah. You might see a kid who was always outgoing suddenly become withdrawn, isolated.
Or the opposite, right? Acting out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A child who usually follows the rules might start pushing boundaries, acting out at school or home. You might also see more clinginess, needing extra reassurance, physical closeness, or maybe anger that seems misplaced. Aimed at a parent, perhaps. It's crucial to remember these shifts are often their way of communicating distress when they don't have the words. Like a bottle filling up, you said. Eventually, it just overflows, sometimes in unexpected ways.
And the chapter points to some specific signs, flags almost, that we should really watch for. Yeah. Things like nightmares or big sleep disturbances.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Breaks your heart.
It does. And also, a noticeable drop in school performance, maybe. Or losing interest in hobbies they used to love.
Right?
The author calls these cries for help, which feels exactly right. It signals they're struggling to cope.
That's a very insightful framing. These aren't just minor blips. They're often indicators that the child is having real difficulty processing these huge family changes. And the author's own story about his son's sleep trouble, that really hit home for me.
Me too.
It was his wake-up call, he said. Made him pay closer attention to the emotional side, not just the practical divorce stuff.
It really illustrates the point.
Yeah.
And one of the core ideas in the chapter, something I think is just so vital, is normalizing these emotions.
Oh, absolutely.
Letting kids know straight up, it's okay to feel sad, angry, confused, even relieved. That's all okay with these big changes.
Validation. It's completely crucial. Just saying something simple like, it makes sense you feel upset right now with everything going on, that can be huge.
Builds trust, right?
Totally. It builds that foundation of trust, of security, lets them know their feelings are valid, and it's safe to show them. No judgment.
So, okay, validation is key. How do we then actually encourage them to share, to open up?
Well, the chapter highlights using open-ended questions, not the yes-no kind.
Right.
More like, tell me more about how you're feeling today. Or maybe, What's been on your mind lately that's making you feel that way?
Gently inviting them in.
Exactly. It
Hmm.
invites them to share their inner world without feeling like they're being grilled or need a specific answer. It's about creating that supportive space.
Uh-huh.
And the chapter also suggests setting aside dedicated time for family meetings.
Oh, I like that idea.
Yeah, it gives a structured chance for everyone to voice thoughts, feelings in a safe, respectful way.
It shows kids their feelings matter, gives them a place to express them, and importantly, the chapter notes using age-appropriate language.
Crucial.
You wouldn't explain divorce details to a 5-year-old the same way you would to a teen, obviously.
Absolutely not. You meet them where they are developmentally, tailor the communication,
Yeah.
and underlying all of this, active listening, real empathy.
Truly focusing, not just waiting to talk.
Exactly. Focusing on what they're saying verbally and nonverbally, trying to see it from their perspective, even if their reactions don't always seem logical to us adults.
Now, the chapter brings in a really practical tool,
Mm-hmm.
the emotional check-in. I thought this was brilliant.
Mm.
So simple, but effective.
Me too.
Suggesting parents regularly ask their child, rate your feelings 1 to 10. Or use an emoji chart, maybe.
What's great about that, simple as it sounds, is it gives you a regular low-pressure way to just gauge where they're at emotionally.
Like a daily snapshot.
Exactly. A snapshot helps you spot patterns or shifts, and kind of subtly, it encourages kids to develop their own emotional literacy.
Makes them think about how they feel.
Right. It prompts them to reflect, identify feelings, even if they can't fully explain them yet. Using it regularly teaches that habit of self-awareness over time.
Okay, so the big takeaway from this first section seems to be every child's journey is unique. No single script. It takes a lot of patience from us and deep empathy.
Precisely. And building on that, the chapter moves into discussing concrete strategies for building an emotional toolbox for our kids.
I love that analogy, the toolbox.
Me too. It's empowering, isn't it? Like giving them actual tools.
Yeah, practical instruments for emotional resilience. So what are some of the key tools the chapter highlights?
Okay, first one. Encouraging healthy expression. Things like journaling or drawing.
Private outlets.
Exactly. For feelings they might not want to talk about yet. Making these regular, maybe even daily rituals, that can be really powerful, a consistent way to process things.
Gives them a safe space to work through stuff, even silently.
Yeah.
What's next in the toolbox?
Breathing exercises, those slow, deliberate breaths. So good for calming down, refocusing when emotions feel huge.
Yeah.
And I love the suggestion of making it a balloon-blowing game for younger kids. Makes it playful.
Oh, that's clever. Makes it accessible.
Totally. Turns an abstract thing into something visual, active. Then building an emotional vocabulary, naming feelings accurately. That's foundational for navigating them.
It's like giving them the language map for their inner world.
Yeah.
And the chapter suggests creating emotion cards with faces and labels.
Yes. Like happy, sad, angry, scared, excited. Sounds like a great DIY project for parents and kids together.
It really does. Visual, interactive, makes talking about feelings less scary, more concrete.
For sure. Then it dives into mindfulness techniques. Guided imagery is one.
Like picturing a peaceful forest or floating on a cloud. I find that stuff really calming myself.
Me too. Or the five senses game. Really good for grounding them in the present moment when they feel swept away. That's such a smart way to bring someone back when they're anxious or overwhelmed. What are you seeing, hearing, smelling?
Exactly. Anchors them in the here and now.
Yeah.
Then, the chapter stresses consistency, especially predictable daily schedules.
Right. In a time of so much change, that stability must feel like gold. Knowing what to expect, morning routines, evening routines.
Provides a vital sense of security, normalcy when things feel chaotic, and finally, creating new family traditions. Post-divorce.
Well, that's important too.
Yeah, like a monthly movie night or weekly pizza making, new rituals to strengthen bonds, create positive memories in the new setup.
It reassures kids that even though the structure changed, the connection, the fun, that continues.
Definitely.
So the main message here is these practical tools empower kids to understand, express, manage their emotions, building resilience.
Absolutely. Which brings us to a really sensitive but crucial part, recognizing and addressing guilt.
Ah, yes. This part is tough.
It really is. The chapter points out how easily kids internalize adult arguments, misinterpret tension, and think it's their fault. It's just heartbreaking imagining a child carrying that weight.
Right.
That if only I'd been better behaved, kind of thinking.
And the danger is them feeling responsible for the divorce itself, this misplaced guilt. It can be really damaging. Anxiety, low self-esteem, even behavioral stuff.
So what do you do?
The chapter is really clear. Consistent, explicit reassurance. The divorce is an adult issue. It is not their fault, period.
And it's not a one-time conversation, is it?
Not at all. It's ongoing. Verbal affirmations, hugs, dedicated quality time, all these things reinforce that message.
Mm.
You are loved. This is not on you.
Mm.
And the chapter suggests using stories, maybe fictional families where parents separate, but it's clear the kids aren't blamed.
That's a gentle approach. Lets them process it without feeling put on the spot.
Right, and maybe analogies too, like friends sometimes growing apart or a TV show ending. Things happen. It doesn't erase the love or the good times.
Helps them grasp a complex thing in a way they can understand. But the chapter warns we need to watch for subtle signs too, right? Guilt isn't always spoken.
Exactly. Losing interest in things they loved, reluctant to engage socially, making lots of self-critical comments.
Those could be flags.
They could be indicators they're still wrestling with that feeling of responsibility. And if we see those signs, the advice is revisit the conversation. Reaffirm they are not to blame.
Keep that door open.
Always. That open dialogue is crucial. They need to know they can bring worries to you without judgment. And importantly, sometimes we need outside help.
Right. Don't be afraid to seek professional support.
Absolutely. A child counselor, a therapist, they can provide invaluable support for the kids and for us parents too. We don't have to do it all alone.
No. And there was that touching case study in the chapter, a mom using bedtime stories to address her son's guilt.
Yeah, that was lovely. It showed how a creative, sensitive approach can really help kids process these tough, often unspoken emotions and strengthen that parent-child bond.
So patience, consistency, open communication. That's the key for helping kids let go of that guilt burden.
That sums it up perfectly. Now, the final big area the chapter covers is tailoring support, adapting to different ages.
Because a toddler's experience is worlds away from a teenager's.
Totally different. Reactions, understanding, needs, they all vary hugely based on age, personality, just where they are developmentally. For
Yes.
toddlers, play is everything.
Play is their language.
It really is. Building blocks, make-believe. That's how they process. Simple games like peekaboo or puppet shows, they build trust, predictability, which toddlers crave during change.
Provides reassurance through simple interaction. What about school-age kids?
They're starting to think more logically, so they need honest explanations, but not overwhelming ones.
Finding that balance. Truthful, but not too complex.
Exactly. Explaining maybe that parents can be happier living apart, that's a concept they can start to grasp. We need to match their emerging logic.
Okay. And then teenagers. A whole different ballgame.
Isn't it just more need for autonomy, figuring out their identity, complex social lives?
They need respect, involvement in decisions that affect them. Discussions might get more complex relationships, social stuff, future plans.
And the key there, listening. Active listening is just paramount during those years, creating that safe space for them to talk, even if we don't always agree.
Making them feel heard.
Critically important. The chapter also briefly mentions some psychological frameworks like Erikson's stages, Piaget's cognitive development.
Which can give us useful background, right?
Uh-huh.
Understanding trust versus mistrust for younger kids, or identity versus role confusion for teens.
Precisely. Or Piaget reminding us how abstract thinking develops, affecting how they understand divorce. It all reinforces needing age-appropriate approaches.
Uh-huh.
And a practical strategy suggested is collaborative problem solving. Family meetings again.
Brainstorming together.
Yeah. Tackling shared challenges, new routines, sibling squabbles. It gives them agency.
Makes them feel their opinions count in the new family setup.
Yeah.
And encouraging their interests, their preferences,
Yeah.
helps them feel they belong.
So important. Feeling they still have a valued place, a voice, even with the changes. So, yeah, the bottom line is tailoring support makes kids feel seen, heard, and truly supported in ways that work for them.
This has been incredibly insightful, a really valuable deep dive into kids' emotional worlds during divorce. It just hammers home how vital it is to understand their unique views and give tailored, empathetic support.
Mm-hmm.
We've looked at decoding emotions, building those emotional toolboxes, tackling guilt, adapting for different ages. It's a lot, but so important.
It really is.
And all this fantastic insight comes from Daniel McMahon's Raise Children After Divorce. For our listeners, if this resonated, you want to go deeper, get more tools,
Sure.
we really recommend checking out the full book. It's available on Amazon Books.
Definitely worth a read.
Absolutely. Remember, your patience, your empathy, your consistent effort to understand your child's emotional world. These are just invaluable. They help kids navigate this transition with resilience, strength, and ultimately hope.
Beautifully put. It's about being present, attuned, and providing that steady support they need.
So, as we wrap up this first deep dive, here's a final thought for you. Think about just one strategy we talked about, maybe the emotional check-in, or one tool from the toolbox.
Hmm.
What's one small concrete step you could take, maybe even today, to better understand and support your child's emotional journey? Could be asking them to rate their day tonight. Could be planning to make those emotion cards this weekend.
Those little steps matter.
They really do. Even one small, intentional step can make a huge difference in a child's life.